welcome to yet another episode of Maveric Insights. This is a conversation series where we discuss about different insights and innovations and ideas that are shaping the world of banking and financial services. So, join me in our discussion today. And with me today, I have Santanu, who's going to be unlocking this big question that everybody is talking about, the hot topic of AI. And today, my question is about what keeps really the CIOs and COOs up at night? How can they truly achieve operational excellence in a world where AI is no longer optional, but it is essential today, right? So, this kind of a question, I think everybody's mind is filled with this question, and we are constantly seeing a lot of things. So, welcome today to the show, Shantanu. Let me just introduce Shantanu for you. Santanu Dutta heads the customer engagement for us for UK and EMEA in Maverick. He leads the solution anchor team and he brings with him over 28 years of experience in technology leadership across the BFS space. He has developed products, data products, led internal IPs for digital banking and cloud transformation, and has done a lot of AI product strategies. So he's also been an author for a lot of white papers in his area of expertise. We're going to talk more about that during the show. So welcome, Shantanu.
Good morning. Thanks for having me here.
So I'm just going to be snapping back to our topic on AI-aided operational excellence. I want to start with some data points that I keep reading about. Uh, to run a bank, the cost to income ratio is about 50 to 65%. I mean, that's a lot, right? So when I also see some reports, there are constantly, things which come up in the AI and Gen AI space that if we use them effectively, we can reduce these operational costs from 25% to about 40%. I mean, that's again a lot. So my question to you is that how do these, I mean, is it really true that these kind of inefficiencies still exist in banking operations today? And if so, how can AI really, realistically, really shift the cost efficiency kind of equation without impacting customer experience?
Okay, that's a good question. So let's look at banking operations, way the things happen at this point of time. You have got people, you have got processes, but you have also got a lot of data, a lot of text, a lot of documents, a lot of images, videos, all put together. Videos and images may be less, but there is a lot of data, a lot of documents which are getting processed. And if I look, we as an industry actually have come a long way. If I go back a couple of decades in my career, to start with, we are removing paper and putting paper to pixel. That is what, having a paperless office. That's where we started a couple of decades ago. What it gave us, we are being able to store the document in a digital format, retrieving becomes easy, storing becomes easy. But that is, a very basic digital, if I may call it. Post that, we moved on. We have done OCR, we have extracted entities from those documents. Once the entity extraction, we also have let it domain led so that, our understanding of the domain becomes more. Like if you look at, a prescription and you can imagine a handwriting of a doctor, the medicine name needs some specialized knowledge for the system to understand it. Symptoms or say the use of certain words in our banking and financial service industry also are very specific. So that domain-led entity extraction also helped us. But if I look at it, it is more like your eye and your brain functioning in order to see it in the document. But is it really the cognitive intelligence of a human being that is there in place? It is not. So between the digitization and this digitization with intelligence, we had some cost saving. But with the Gen AI coming in, what is happening right now is all this set of documents, all the set of process documents also that we have, we can store them in a way that in a say in a vector database where we can run semantic searches, and that semantic search is more the way we consume all this media as a human being and try to intelligently interpret something, and that is with us now, and that is going to give us a non-linearity in terms of unfurling more efficiency into the banking process. Now I took text possibly to give this example out, but it is multimodal. If you look at the industry about say 5 year back in 2020, I published a white paper on 2D and 3D facial authentication, because in order to identify Sinjini as a person who you are, it's your facial geometry in a 2D and 3D space can be industrialized, and that has been done in 2020 when the facial authentication was really coming full stream into the industrial act itself. Now those pictures, those visions also, now through the GenAI we are being able to interpret through the vision model, and that also is unfurling more intelligence, more cognitive behavior, more cognitive way of thinking into it, and that is going to drive the efficiency. And what inefficiency you are talking about, I would say that we are in that journey, and we are in that non-linearity phase where we are going to see the non-linear jump in terms of not only the cost reduction but also the better customer experience. Both of them are going to come.
So, what I'm hearing from you is that you're talking about the digitization, moving from digitization to intelligence, right? So, how do you really unlock this intelligence? Do you have some examples to talk about?
Okay, so let me establish this particular point by giving you an example of a high street bank of UK who has approached us in with a particular problem. And what is the problem? The problem is they have a lot of legal agreement with their corporate customer. All these agreement run into some 300 400 odd pages. It can be even longer. There are multiple documents in an agreement. There are a lot of cross references within those agreements itself, and it goes without saying that someone needs the domain knowledge in order to understand this. And why it is important? Because they want to do some insight extraction from those documents. Based on those insight, they can take a call that whether to continue with that loan portfolio, or to divest them, or to acquire some portfolio based on this intelligence that they can extract. Three things are very important in this process. One is the accuracy, second is the speed, and third is our old friend cost. Now, if what they did, they tried internally, costs are more, time is more, and the accuracy can be maintained, but these two are not really going hand in hand. They tried with external agency, other legal firm. Then the speed increased, but the cost increased even further. So they came, and what we did is we understood the problem. And here is a thing that we did is, understand the domain of those documents, then did a very deep business and system analysis in order to see that what is the core problem that they are trying to solve, and how do we break this problem into simple tasks that we can solve, then take them into a agentic model through which we solved this particular problem. When we are looking at the questions, we saw that some of these questions are actually referential. When I say referential, what I mean is that your answer is actually there in the document itself. You need to find out that which clause actually is giving you the answer. Some of the questions are difficult because they are inferential. That means you have to really join the points which are there in the document and take a cognitive decision to answer a particular question. So you need a chain of thought, you need advanced prompt engineering, you need to also understand that what would be the right chunking and overlapping strategy by which you can answer the questions. You need a data model to understand, that which are the entities which are related. You even need a decision model to run your chain of thought in the right direction. So these are the things that we did with our domain SMEs who are present to do this analysis before jumping into writing our first line of code to solve it. And I would say that that is the secret sauce that we used. And you know what we achieved in our proof of value stage is a 99% plus accuracy. And again, talking about the accuracy, measurement is very important for the accuracy. So we saw that some of the answers are generative. Some of the answers are categorical. That means you need to choose from a fixed set of answers that you have. So we had a strategy for dealing with it, that for a cognitive answers, for a generative answers, we'll use possibly BERT or cosine similarity, but we are going to use exact match for the categorical answer. So, it is that thinking of what you are doing, analyzing that what you are doing, and finally doing a system design, architecting it properly is the key nuance of finding out a solution which is going to deliver value for the customer. One more thing we thought through, that today there are human agents who are actually giving us the ground truth. Tomorrow, once it goes to a pilot or towards the production, human agents are not going to be there, because that's the main problem that we are trying to solve, right? So in that context, we had put LLM as a judge in the pipeline itself. What does it do? It can tell you that what is your retrieval quality, what is your factual accuracy, what is the completeness, what is the relevance to that particular query, what is the reasoning quality that your LLM actually is producing. Then what happens? So LLM is telling you that this is the answer. It is also telling you that, these are the quality I have checked using another LLM, so that it is more like a self-governing mechanism that is in play here. And that is, that something gave a wow factor to the customer, because of the fact that we not only are thinking about today of a proof of value, but we are also thinking about how to take it to the production. Then
so scaling is also another aspect.
Scaling is another aspect. Then the third aspect, which also told them about our thought process, is we created Clara. Clara is a digital assistant for that legal assistant, or digital twin for the legal assistant. And we have made Clara intelligent to remain in the narrow scope, because we are not here to create general intelligence for the industry. We are solving a specific problem. We also made Clara intelligent in terms of certain filters, like say a PII filter, so that I don't want to divulge, because these agreements are going to be very, very critical and strategic to the bank. And if there are a lot of people who are there, you may not like to give all information to everyone. So those are kind of things which make it an industrialized solution, a scalable solution, and a solution which is fit to the purpose. And that is how we can unlock the next level of efficiency and value. And definitely, the cost and speed, these are the two factors we addressed here. Accuracy, I told you about what we have achieved in the proof of value stage itself. So 3 problems I talked about, and this is the way we solved all the 3 for the bank.
Clara, I think Clara is because of what? You named it Clara because of the clauses? You've been talking about the legal documents and the clauses, you've been mentioning that. Is that the reason why?
You are bang on target. That's what the team came up with, that it has got tons of clauses. They got bored by seeing those documents. They are very boring document, I must say. But yes, those clauses are important for the bank's business. So clauses are there, and Aura is that the feminine superiority in terms of solving or being accurate in terms.
I already like you because you're talking about feminine superiority. So some brownie points there. So which is actually leading me to my next question that, obviously we are also talking about creativity in AI because digitization is only half the story, as I understand from you, and AI is bringing the intelligent layer. So my question here is that like we are seeing in overdose of chat gpt, we are using chat gpt to write our responses and all that, and most of the time all the responses are very robotic. They are very run of the mill. I mean, anybody can say that it's the same, right, for most of the people. Then how do we bring in this differentiation by using ai?
So that's a great question, Shinjini, and that is one of the point I touched upon in the last answer as well. That see, generative AI is a very powerful tool, but you need to use it in a proper way. Otherwise, this powerful hammer can actually bend or even break your nails instead of you creating something beautiful. And that is what we understand, that we serve the banking and financial services industry, which is regulated, and the tools that we are using need to have certain bounds, and those bounds are there, but at the same point of time the basics of solving a problem has not changed. So understanding of the domain, understanding of or doing a very deep domain analysis, business analysis, system analysis, all these are critical and they are not going away anywhere. But once we can bring these problems into smaller chunks and pieces, we can use generative AI to solve it. I will give you an example. See, one of the bank in Bahrain, they approached us with one particular problem, that they are going to go for core banking late transformation, where they have developed a lot of the systems with them over last couple of decades, and those systems have formed a spaghetti, and there are a lot of overlaps in terms of the functionality. There are technical dependence and monolithic architecture which was there. Now, if you look at our industry in late 80s and 90s, application portfolio rationalization is something which is a concept which is being industrialized at that point of time itself to solve this kind of a problem. But in the modern context, what we thought that can we do the application portfolio rationalization using GenAI and other AI tools. But what is the core concept? The APR or application portfolio rationalization. You need person who can understand the architecture of the system, understand the functionalities of the system, understand the core banking transformation that they are embarking on, and then use GenAI to solve it. So what we did, we took when you look at their application, they have their BRDs, a lot of documents, the BRDs, HLDs, LLDs, you have the code itself, you have the test cases, then you have their budgets, their goals. Then you have the application performance data in terms of their ITSM, in terms of say their deployment that is happening through their DevSecOps pipeline. So all this information put together, put the images, the documents, the code, everything, try to make sense out of it by putting them again in a semantic in a database which is enabled to give you the capability for a semantic search. And we created our POV around it. We presented to the CIO. He liked it, and we are waiting for the pilot phase initiation for the same. So it is a concept of late 80s and 90s. Core concept remains the same, but the way of execution becomes different using a GenAI.
Lovely. Okay, that's a very hopeful thing to look forward to. So I was just wondering, what are some of the other use cases you're seeing that the BFSI space is actually in this space, that where people are actually seeing real ROI to come in?
Let me again, give you an example or give this answer through an example. One of the Indian fintech, they approached us. They said that they have a problem in terms of they run a customer care center, and they invest a lot of money into that customer care center, but the customer complaints are not reducing. So there must be some basic problem. So what did they do? They called a third party auditor, they are manual auditors, and they do 5% of the call audit. So if I take some numbers, like see, if you have a 10,000 calls, then 500 calls get audited by this third party. They are even not sure that these third party auditors are actually doing the audit properly. So they themselves do an audit of 1% of those 5% calls. So out of 500, they audit 5 calls. Now you tell me, if you are auditing 5 calls out of 10,000, of which you are confident about, it is not even statistically significant. How can your audit is foolproof? How can your customers are also going to get satisfied? So just by spending money in running a customer care center is not good enough. When we looked at it, it's a difficult problem because there are 16 odd parameters, 16, 17 parameters based on which you audit a call, right? Some of them are subjective, some of them are objective. Then there are about 60 odd conditions by which the agent can fail in doing his job properly. There are about 350 odd conditions or scenarios which are present. So it's a complex scenario. So we again took that approach of keeping or creating that intelligent database, which through their SOPs, through the previous call details, and then curate a generative AI-led solution with the fine-tuned LLMs, which can actually solve their problem. Here also we have done a POC, we have shown them the results, and we are waiting for the actual project to get initiated. Now, if you look at, these are the places where the ROI is going to come, because once you really develop the system, rest of it can follow. You can actually, from a 5% to 100% with the infrastructure, small investment in your infrastructure and other cost factors, you can unlock that call coverage. Obviously, the next thing that you are going to get also is the customer satisfaction, because if your 100% calls are audited, obviously, and they are audited properly, then obviously your satisfaction is going to increase.
So what I could hear from you are so many actually, ways we can use it, and you're seeing it being considered in this industry. But my question here is that how do you scale AI responsibly, especially when it comes to this kind of a tightly regulated, space like banking? There's so much of data exposure that we have to do. Then how do we protect data and also scale AI at the same time?
That's a very important and fantastic question. See, when we are talking through the examples which I cited earlier, few of the things we spoke about, that if I have got a PII data, I don't want to expose it. If I have a data residency problem, then I have to address it through the local LLM. If a call audit is required and it needs to have an audit in a particular format, that is required to be adhered to. So we put guardrails and keep even our agents that we develop for solving these problems with these filters. We put them to keep it in the narrow scope of activity that they are supposed to do. We make the explainability as part of our architecture. We use multiple agents to do a maker checker, like that's a common process in the bank, and we also do it through different LLMs to do the same thing, so that the quality of responses can improve. So these are some nuances that we keep in our architecture itself, so that it is solved architecturally from the beginning itself. In some places, we have seen that at the end of it, a regulatory document is required to be created, like say a suspicion transaction report or a suspicion activity report for certain fraud use cases that we have. Now, in that, we even end it with creating the draft report for consumption. So that's how we take the entire industry and its practices into account when we design the system.
Got it. Because as you were talking, I'm just going on thinking about the massive amount of, data we are exposing through all of these things, right? And then obviously the data protection and all that. How do we really do that? And but it's another big, topic to really discuss. We would probably park it for another time. Else are you seeing really AI making this kind of an impact? They may not be mainstream currently, but what are you seeing? What is the future like?
See, if you look at all the use cases that I talked about, they are very direct in terms of its approach, and we are solving a particular problem. And if you look at the way we think, yes, possibly application portfolio rationalization has got a lot of, it is like emulating architect's head, right? That is what we are trying to do. Other things like a call center audit is very direct. There are parameters. Problem is complex, but it is a very direct kind of a problem. I will give you another example which is a bit different. It is at the much higher scope of cognitive intelligence for a human to do. One of the fintech of a KSA bank approached us with a problem of looking at their IT project risk and do that risk analysis for the new projects based on whatever risk analysis they have done for their earlier projects, and to come up with their mitigation strategy. Now they told us also that it is not an inbound thing, because IT projects will have some regulations which might come in that can influence the risk for the project, because if it is not compliant to it, then you cannot run it as a project for you. Now there are other regulations also. Inside the bank, if you look at, things are changing. So what's happening is, when you are doing an impact analysis for a particular risk, it flows across the system. You need to really look at. So if you look at that risk analyst's mind, it is one of the very high level of cognitive problem that we are trying to solve here. And for this kind of a solution, you need models which can think like a human being. And that is where this is a difficult problem. I will not say this is mainstream, but these are some things which are happening. Because if you look at, we are today on 31st of July. Next month we are expecting the GPT, the Generative Pre-trained Transformer 5 is coming out. According to Sam Altman, it can cross human intelligence in certain aspect of cognitive and analytical thinking. He may have a creator's bias, we can say, but we know how strong these models are becoming every day. So what you are seeing as something that we cannot solve with this today can come within the realm of your solution ambit in no time. So I'm hopeful to create something good for the industry in days to come. Can you please share one or two examples of typical risks that you come across in your FMEA of your AI solution, and what would be their respective mitigations? When we are trying to emulate this intelligence, one of the critical problem is we are still working in a narrow scope. And what I told you, right, in that example of that document intelligence, that we have kept certain self-governing mechanism within to see that whether our model is actually performing or how it is performing. But in some places it might happen, because we are in the very initial stage of this GenAI revolution, right? So certain places it may happen that we may not be able to really see the drift, or may not be able to catch the drift. So there, our view is to keep a human in the loop in the initial period. We are still keeping human in the loop. It is like, driving a self-driving car, but keep your hand on the steering. So that's the stage we are in, and that's how we are trying to solve this risk. But definitely going ahead, once the cognitive capabilities increase, that hand on the steering you may not need, you can enjoy having a total self driving car itself.
So there's a follow-up question to that, which is artificial general intelligence is a dream where we all want to be. But what is your sense? Are we already there, or how far are we from reality?
What we are doing is we have kept that LLM as a judge towards in the pipeline itself, and we need to monitor those values in order to see that if there is a fluctuation, and that's how we are trying to detect that if any of the drift or my model is degenerating in any particular kind of a situation or not. At this point, once we run that system for some time, we will get to know that how successful we are. I will not claim that yeah, we have achieved it, or we have overcome that particular harm that we are trying to. So that's how we are keeping that as a measure by which we should be able to catch it, but time will tell that how good that measure is. And obviously what you said is very relevant, that we are not anywhere towards the general intelligence. We are trying to solve specific narrow bound problem at this time.
How do financial institutions ensure that operational AI doesn't become a black box?
That's a very good question. See, that's where, whether the customer has asked or not, we keep the explainability of any of the answers as part of our architecture itself. And if you look at that entire pipeline, we design it with the multiple agents. So whatever one agent is doing, we have the explanation. We pass that explanation to a final agent who can look at all these in order to say that whether that interpretation or that question answering or the task that we are trying to perform is correct or not. So that's the checks and balance that we keep in order to see that we are arriving at the best possible answer with the current set of technological tools that we have.
Can banks effectively manage the risks of hallucinations and misinterpretations in AI driven KYC and AML checks? Explicitly in hallucination and compliance, LLMs can confidently generate false regulatory references or fabricate customer details. What do you have to say to that?
See, hallucination is a common problem that is there for generative AI, and it is not only for the AML and KYC space. It can happen anywhere. Now, when we design the solution and when we are testing it, we need to make sure that the retrieval which is happening in the beginning, that retrieval quality is good. Then from the retrieval we need to see, and that's where the LLM as a judge or those parameters are really going to be important. So from that retrieval we also need to see that what is the context to the question, whether it is sticking to the document or not, and whether it is sticking to those retrieval answers or not. Is it trying to fabricate something? So those are the levers and the handles that you have, and you need to really test it out in order to see that the hallucination is not happening. It is not only for KYC, AML, but for any of the use cases in banking that you are trying to implement. You need to be absolutely sure, need to put it in your pipeline, and then need to really keep an eye on for all the problems that you are trying to solve, that the quality of these parameters are not deteriorating, and that's how to address it.
Uh, there is one more question, which is about what would you suggest us to do in the areas or subjects with respect to Gen AI to be more strong and confident in future to face the challenges in banking?
So I will ask or answer this question like an LLM, that you have given me the context for banking and you are also asking about Gen AI. But I will put a little bit of intelligence on top of an LLM, that the primary thing for you is to understand the banking problem that you are trying to solve. So in the many of these examples what I cited, that understanding of the domain, understanding of the business and system analysis. It may sound repetitive to you, but it is that critical that you can't leave them alone and try to solve a problem using AI or a GenAI. So that is one. Now, in the GenAI space, you need to understand the transformer and how a transformer really works. You need to understand that just not GenAI as a question answering tool itself, but inside what is happening, how the retrieval is happening, what are the things that you are being able to retrieve. Even if you take a step back from, say, if you are extracting it from the document, what is the metadata that is actually getting saved for your document? Because with this, it is like you understand how to solve the problem as a human being. Let LLM emulate your steps to find out the same answer. And hence, if you look at this internal dynamics of how it is working, then it would be better. So in summary, one part is your understanding of the domain, another part on the GenAI side, understanding of the transformer, understanding of how LLM is actually working, and trying to see that each and every step within the process in order to come up at the final answer, and have your testing done properly before you can roll it out. Understand that what are the NFRs which the bank has given, so that you don't leave it out on the excitement of arriving at a solution, because for a regulated industry these are important. So that's how I will give you a layered answer that you need to have in terms of your skill and application of the skill to solve a problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, Shantanu. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure being here.